Good day, everyone. While we are still waiting for the others to join, to zoom out on the screen, double tap on the Edify IT. So you can get maximum view. Yeah. So let's start. It's after 8. Good day, everyone. Welcome to Edify IT free no-code web development training. Please, Toby, can you turn off your mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Welcome to Edify IT free no-code web development training. I will be your tutor, Edify. And I know you would like to know a little bit about me. So here it is. My name is Edify, and I am a full stack web developer. I have been programming for a while now. I do both no-code and coding web development. And here are my stack. I use both front end and back end. And I would be your tutor. So for this course, we are going to have 3 chapters. Chapter 1, website breakdown. Under website breakdown, we're going to have understanding the internet. We're going to learn what a website is, what makes up a website, what is web design, what is web hosting, and we're going to learn the basics of web development. For chapter 2, we are going to learn CMS, Content Management System. What is CMS? CMS versus programming, types of CMS. Chapter 3, we are going to cover WordPress. WordPress plugins, what are WordPress themes, hosting in WordPress, how to create a blog website using WordPress, and host it. For today, we are going to cover chapter 1 and chapter 2. So I want you guys to follow along. Now, what is the internet? When many people hear about the internet, what comes to mind is many people think of a cloud or something in the sky that holds all these informations and websites and all that. But that is very far from the truth. The internet is not a cloud. Surprisingly, the internet is a very long wire, a very, very long cable that spreads almost all over the world. And this long cable connects all these systems together. And the internet works in these two ways. We have the client and we have the server. The client, you requesting for a website, when you open your web browser and type in for, I want to open google.com, you are the client. Then now the server is a computer that serves up the website to you. So basically, every website you see today, or every website you can access, is on another computer that needs to be on 24/7. 24/7. They cannot turn it off. They have to make sure it is up and running. If the computer offs even 1 second, that 1 second that it offs, if you request for that website, you won't be able to get the website until the computer is back on. Now, here's how it looks like. You and your PC, the ISP or Office DNS server. This ISP is your internet service provider. That is, for instance, MTN, Airtel, Glo. Then this interweb actually is supposed to be the internet backbone, or that cable that I told you. This cloud you are seeing represents the wire. Then now they have something called a DNS server. This DNS stands for domain name server. And we also have the server where you want to get the website from. So how it works is, firstly, you go to your browser, let's say you open Google Chrome, and you want to get google.com homepage, and you type in google.com. Once you type in google.com, Google Chrome will send it through your ISP, your internet service provider. The internet service provider will send the message through the internet backbone, the long cable I told you about. And the internet backbone send that request to the DNS. Now think of the DNS as a library, a very, very big library that contains the domain names of almost all the websites you can think of. Now, this very big library, this is where your ISP will send the request that you want to see google.com through that long cable that connects every system together, through that long cable to the DNS, the domain name server. So it will take it to it, then the DNS would now check through his library and send information back through this internet backbone to your ISP and back to your Google Chrome or your browser, or whatever browser you use. So the information the DNS server sends back when you type in google.com would be the IP address of the server that the google.com homepage is. Now, every computer that uses the internet has an IP address. That IP address is what any other computer can use to locate or communicate with that computer. So what this DNS server does is, once the request you made from your Google Chrome goes from your ISP provider down to the internet backbone, down to the DNS server, what the DNS does is, it will now check through its memory and look, okay, google.com, which IP address is google.com tied to? So, and you will look for the IP address and we send the IP address back to you. Now your phone, your browser will now resend a direct request to that IP address that I want to get this homepage to your ISP. Your ISP will send it to the internet backbone down to the server, where the server that has that IP address, that is the computer that contains the homepage of google.com. Now this computer will now send back the homepage along this line back to your browser. So those are literally the steps that happens behind the scenes before you can get a website. And all this can happen in a split second, in a very, very, very short period of time. And now, sometimes it takes longer, though. It depends on the server. Sometimes it takes longer. But if you are browsing with a high-speed internet and everything happens very, very fast. The request sent to the DNS, request sent back to your PC or your phone, then the request sent to the server, and the request sent back to your PC. So it's a very, 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 very long and complicated journey, but it happens so fast that you don't know how long or how complex it is. Now, website breakdown. What is a website? A website is a collection of publicly accessible interlinked web pages that share a single domain name. Websites can be created and maintained by an individual, group, business, or organization to serve a variety of purposes. Together, all publicly accessible websites constitute the World Wide Web. Although sometimes it is called web page, this definition is wrong, since a website consists of several web pages. A website is also known as a web presence or simply site. Now, this World Wide Web here is what encompasses everything I told you. The World Wide Web is basically the chain whereby you can send in requests and response from a client to the server and from a server back to the client. What is a web app? I don't know how many of you have heard, but there are some websites that are called web apps, and there are some websites that are just called websites. The difference between them is this. A web application is an application program that is stored on a remote server and delivered over the internet through a browser interface. Web services are web apps by definition, and many, although not all websites, contain web apps. According to Web App Storm editor, Jara Remick, any website component that performs some function for the user qualifies as a web app. Take, for instance, you want to shop on Jumia. You make an order, and when you place the order, the person responds to you and you get your package. The website has performed a function for you, the function of you placing an order. So any website that the user can interact with and it does something for the user is a web app, is a web application. Now, the difference between a web app and a website is one is static. It cannot really do any function for the user, and one is dynamic. It can do functions for the user when the user interacts with it. So web applications can be designed for a wide variety of uses and can be used by anyone, from an organization to an individual, for numerous reasons. Commonly used web applications can include webmail, online calculators, or e-commerce shops, like that example I gave you about Jumia. Some web apps can only be accessed by a specific browser. However, most are available no matter the browser. What is a domain name? A domain name is your website name. A domain name is the address where internet users can access your website. A domain name is used for finding and identifying computers on the internet. This takes us back to that example I gave you, whereby your phone will send a request to your ISP, internet service provider, down to the internet backbone, down to a DNS, a domain name server. Now, the domain name server would check which IP address is tied to your domain name and send back the IP address through that same medium back to your phone. Now your browser will now send a request through that medium, but instead of going to the DNS, it's going to take it down to that server, that specific computer, because the DNS has already given your computer the specific IP address it needs to get the website from. So computers use IP addresses, which are a series of numbers. However, it is difficult for humans to remember strings of numbers. Because of this, domain names were developed and used to identify entities on the internet rather than using IP addresses. Examples, edifyit.com.ng, that is our company's website, CIS Foundation.xyz, google.com, etc. Back in the days, like let's say in the 90s, instead of using, let's say, google.com or edifyit.com.ng, they will start typing in, if you want to get a website, you have to go to your browser and start typing in the IP address, 123.98. Those kind of things. Imagine if you have to keep in memory all those numbers. Let's say you want to get Google website, you keep the number, the IP address. You want to get Netflix, you keep the IP address. It's going to be strenuous. So they had to come up with the solution that is creating domain names. We are going to move on. Some abbreviations explained. What is HTTP and www? HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. www is the abbreviation for the World Wide Web and is about communication between web clients and servers. Communication between client computers and web servers is done by sending HTTP requests and receiving HTTP responses. Moving on. HTTP request and response. Communication between clients and servers is done by requests and responses. A client or your browser sends an HTTP request to the web. A web server receives the request. The server runs an application to process the request. The server returns an HTTP response, that is the output to the browser. Then the client or the browser receives the response. Moving on. What is web design? Web design is the process of planning, conceptualizing, and arranging content online. Today, designing a website goes beyond aesthetics to include the website's overall functionality. Web design also includes web apps, mobile apps, and user interface design. Moving on. What is web hosting? I want to get you guys accustomed to all these terms because it's one thing to be a web developer and it's one thing to be a professional web developer. A professional knows his tool and knows his craft. You understand? So I want you to get accustomed because I don't know, most of you might have been accustomed to this, but some of you might not be accustomed to this. So I'm welcoming you into the field and giving you these terms. Web hosting is the process of renting or buying space to house a website on the World Wide Web. Website content such as HTML, CSS, and images has to be housed on a server to be viewed online or to be viewable online. Think of it like this. Think of your website as a house. But that your house now, it needs a land for it to exist. And that land needs an address. So the domain name is the address. The land is the hosting. And your house is the website. Have you seen how they correlate? So when you pay for hosting, you've paid for a space where you can build your house or where you can build your website. And when you pay for a domain name, you've paid for an address where users can tell, maybe if they want to tell an Uber, I want to go to so place, you understand? So that is just a layman way of explaining what web hosting is with interaction with web design and domain name. Learn the basics of web development. What makes up a website? Every web page you see is a bunch of code interpreted to you as beautiful websites by your browser. The structure of a web page is created with HTML, hypertext markup language. Web pages are styled through CSS, cascading style sheets. The functionality of a web page is programmed with the only programming language web browsers understand, and that is JavaScript. So basically, every website, immediately you open google.com, okay, and you are seeing this search or find a website or whatever, and you see that beautiful logo google.com has, forgot your password, login, all those things you are seeing, basically is just a bunch of codes put together by a programmer, you understand, and saved up to you as that beautiful website. So the computer interprets, or your browser or your phone, your web browser interprets those codes and saves up that beautiful website to you. Moving on. What is HTML? HTML, hypertext markup language, is the language that we use to structure a web page and its content. An HTML tag is a piece of markup language used to indicate the beginning and end of an element, of an HTML element in an HTML document. As part of an HTML element, HTML tags help browsers convert HTML documents into web pages. For example, the paragraph tag, that is P, and how it starts is you start it with a less than sign and you put the P and close it with a greater than sign. The paragraph tag is used to organize text contents into paragraph elements, and the image tag is used to embed image elements. Again, if you just joined the class and you're not seeing me bold on your screen, all you need to do is to double tap the Edify IT icon, and I will be broad on your screen. And to give you maximum experience or a better view, I would advise, if you're using your phone, put your phone horizontally. Then if you're using your system, you can ping my own icon, you understand? So if you're using your phone, put it horizontally to see everything clearly. So now I'm going to teach you basic HTML. I'm going to show you how HTML works. You go to, let's say we go to our file manager. You're going to create a folder. Let's create a folder in this our desktop. If you're with your system, you can follow along and do what I'm doing. But if you are with your phone, you can just watch. I want to show you how everybody can create a basic web page. Open folder. Let's name this folder basic. Wait. Let me select the window to share. Hold on. Yes. Now, you go to your desktop, create a folder, name the folder basic web page. So once that folder has been created, you can now open your notepad. Every system has a notepad. Every system has a notepad. So you can start doing this. Doc type HTML. This doc type HTML shows that this is an HTML5 document. Then now we have the HTML tag. The HTML tag has to have a closing HTML tag, which is this. So every tag you create has to have a closing tag, but there are some tags that are self-closing. Now we'll create a head. And a body. and also a title. Let me space it out for you to see what is going on. So basically, the head tag contains the title and other meta tags. The title of your website, and let's say you want to give your website an icon. Maybe when you share the link on WhatsApp and somebody, like, you know, this thing that WhatsApp does, that when you put a link, it pops up something at the head. And when you send the message, it will show you like an image of that website, like an icon. So it's in this head tag that you can put the icon and also the title and also a description to describe that website. So let's say we want to name this our website, My First Web Site or web page. Everything you want to put that you want a user to see should come in the body. Nothing can, if you put anything in this head, you can't see it in the body of the web page. So now we can go to this body and put, let's say, I want to put a header, H1. Now, the header of a website, you can have H1 down to H6. So H1 is the biggest, H6 is the smallest. So let's call this My First Web Page. Then we come here, save as. If you have a notepad, you can do this thing. We will select where we want to save it. We created something called, yes, basic web page. Open. So we'll save it as, we are not going to save it as txt. All files and save it as index.html and save. Now, to view our web app or our website, we have to go back to our desktop. Open the basic web page. Double click on this index.html. It will open in your browser. Let me share that screen to you. Then now we will share the browser screen to you. Voila, my first web page. This is my first web page. That was that header that we typed in to the website or into that notepad. So any change we want to make will come in the body. So let's go back to the notepad and make some more changes to it. Share the notepad. Now, we don't just want to put my first web page. We want to put a paragraph. Something that would reflect not just that my first web page. So I'm going to copy the paragraph from that about me on that our company's website, and I'm going to paste it here. And we are going to save. Then we are going to go back to our browser and refresh. the browser. Now you can see this. So now, aside from this, we want to give this web page structure. It just looks basic. So we can go back to our notepad and in the body. Okay, before we do that, let's share this. Now, before we get into CSS, styling of the web page, CSS is cascading style sheets. It is the language we use to style a web page. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. External style sheets are stored in CSS files. So I'm going to show you how to style that. Here, all right, style. We can do inline styling or using a different sheet, but we're going to do inline for this one. So let's say text align. Center. This would put all the text in the web page to the center. Save. Now, let's share our browser. And refresh. Voila. Everything has moved from left alignment to the center. So we are kind of running out of time. I would have loved to show you so many tricks aside from this, but you guys opted for Zoom, and Zoom is limited. So we have to move on. We'll have to move to content management systems. Content management system, CMS. A CMS, short for content management system, is a software application that allows users to build and manage websites without having to code it from scratch or know how to code it at all. So these things I told you, and you don't need to have knowledge of it, but for you to really understand designing a website, even with CMS like WordPress, is going to be good for you to have, even if it's the basic or the least knowledge about web development. So like we said here, to understand how CMS works, you have to understand what it's like to build a website from scratch. And that is what we showed you. A CMS is made up of two core parts: CMA, content management application, and CDA, content delivery application. CMS versus programming. With CMS, you don't need to know complex programming languages or web design concepts to create beautiful websites. CMS reduces the time required to create a website compared to programming, but CMS is limited to whatever plugin your content management application offers. But with knowledge of programming, the possibilities are endless. You understand? With CMS, you are just limited to whatever plugin or themes they give you. But with programming, you can design anything. If you want to design a website that maybe when you go there, you just shout, you can design it. But with WordPress, you are limited to whatever theme or design they give you. Types of CMS. We have open source CMS, proprietary CMS, and software as a service. Open source CMS, explain. You can download open source CMS software at no initial cost. There are no license or upgrade fees or contracts. However, with open source CMS, you may have to pay for technical help during installation, customization, and compatible templates, add-ons, and plugins. So basically, open source CMS, they are free, like the name implies. And examples of open source CMS, we have WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, Magento. This is an e-commerce open source CMS, and PrestaShop, e-commerce open source CMS. Next, proprietary CMS explained. Proprietary CMS or commercial CMS software is built and managed by a single company. Using such CMS generally involves buying a license fee to use the software, paying monthly or annual charges for updates or support. So this one, before you can get it, you have to buy it, and you have to pay for a license to use it, and you have to be paying monthly or annually, depending on how you want to use it. Unlike open source, where you don't need to pay, you can just start using it. WordPress is free, Joomla is free, all of them are free. Those ones I mentioned. Now, examples of proprietary CMS includes Kentico, Microsoft SharePoint, IBM Enterprise Content Management, Pulse CMS, Sitecore, and Shopify. Software as a Service, SaaS. Software as a Service, CMS, or Cloud Content Management System solution commonly include web content management software. So basically, what this one is a pay-as-you-go service. This one is just like, take for instance, your phone. When you buy airtime and you want to call somebody, they will charge you on per second, you understand, as long as you are making that call. Then when you end the call, what will be removed from your account balance or your phone balance would be the amount you spent per second. So that is how this pay-as-you-go software as a service works. It works with pay-as-you-go. You will not buy it, and it's not just free because you pay as you go. Examples of software as a service CMS includes acrobat.com, box.net, and Google Docs. So these are the 3 examples that are listed here. And that is that for CMS. Now, next, WordPress. In our next class, we are going to take on WordPress, everything, WordPress plugins, WordPress themes, and I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful blog. This blog was made with WordPress. So I made a programming blog for Edify IT. So I'm going to walk you through how to create something like this tomorrow. Now, this class tomorrow is going to start this same time, 8 o'clock to 8:40. And we are not going to use African time, but because as you see, we are working on time, we are limited. Zoom call only lasts 40 minutes. So, and I made sure I chose the one that majority of you choose. So later, if you guys are not satisfied with Zoom, you understand, I think we can opt for YouTube streaming because that one is longer. But if we continue with Zoom, I'll have to rush through and breeze through it tomorrow. So, and that is it for today's class. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's class. Have a nice day.